This is really Just Stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
Hey, how you doing? Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's difficult for me to decide what I'm going to talk about on this podcast lately, and that's because every single day there's a whole new shit show that's just throwing itself at me and saying, talk about me, talk about me. And 700 things a day are happening that are completely worthy of someone doing an entire podcast about. And I don't have the patience for all of that, and nobody can cover it all. It's almost like every hour of every day there's some new stupid fucking thing happening that needs someone to rant about it. And since I kind of rant about things, it would be right up my alley. Except I can't keep up with all of it. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. The things that are going on in the world right now, and primarily with our own country, but the things that are happening currently in the United States and our presence around the world are just horrible. And it's really getting a little scary out there. For instance, the White House is saying that they're just going to defy the legal system, judges who put injunctions on them or, things like that. And that they don't have to listen to the judiciary because they're the executive branch and they can do what they want and no one can tell them no. And that just isn't the way things have been done in this country since the Constitution was written and ratified. But every single day, it's something new. We're now deporting people to other countries so they can be imprisoned in other countries, which probably isn't legal either. My understanding is that the people they sent to Gitmo are back, like they didn't actually keep them there. So I'm not really sure what that was all about, other than maybe just for good press, trying to whip up their base. I'm not sure what's happening with that, but there's quite a few things. But every day, someone in this administration is doing something incredibly stupid. And that includes minor figures who you don't even know who they are. You don't know what their job is. I encountered one of those today. I didn't actually encounter her, but I encountered the situation today, and I'm just completely unaware of this. But let's go to, a little screen share. And, I don't follow the person who's posting this. I don't know who it is, actually. A friend of mine shared it, someone who I kind of trust their point of view anyway, and I trust that they're not going to just randomly share propaganda and bullshit. So today I got to learn about Kingsley Wilson. She's the Deputy Press Secretary for the Pentagon. I don't know why. I don't know where these people come from. I don't know who's bringing them on, but let's give a listen. First of all, on this video, you're going to see her having a discussion with a sort of a panel of people there. But it's on Timcast, which is Timcast IRL, which is Tim Pool's show, his podcast show. It's fairly popular with right-wing nut jobs, which is interesting because that's what people used to call me. But apparently not anymore. Apparently now I'm suddenly a centrist, which is what I told people I was all along. But Tim Pool is one of those guys who is just blatantly being paid by Russian intelligence to spread Russian propaganda. He was literally one of those people who got caught doing that. So Tim Pool, piece of shit Tim Pool, who has a very popular show, has these people on. So you have to understand that anyone who will appear on his show with him is obviously endorsing his behavior. And this Kingsley Wilson person apparently has praised Putin in the past and spread Russian propaganda in the past. So it's not that surprising. But in this case, she's saying that some rancher who shot an illegal immigrant should get a Medal
It
of
is
Honor.
insane. This guy was even brought on trial. It's a non-citizen
Brought on trial.
illegally entering the country, illegally entering his property, multiple people, cartel activity, murders, trafficking, all of that stuff. A guy on his own property, and they were like, we're gonna try you for murder. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. We should be giving this guy the Medal of Honor instead of putting him through, our lawfare that we.
We don't give people the Medal of Honor for murder or for just killing people. That's not really a thing that happens. And it's not lawfare if you're charged with a crime. This girl's not smart, which is obvious, but I'll let her finish.
We have in this country. It's crazy too that they're expending tax dollars, right, to put on this trial, and they're just.
We're spending tax dollars to employ your ignorant fucking ass right now. Anyway.
Draining our resources when what they should really be doing is stopping these non-citizens who are illegally crossing into our country.
Look at the danger. It is insane. This guy was.
Okay, so I was just going to go on and repeat, but until today, I had no idea who this person was. I didn't know she even worked for the Pentagon. I don't think the Pentagon's actually had a press conference since the new administration came on board. My understanding is that they're going to be having one soon, because a couple of friends of mine who are journalists who cover the Pentagon have mentioned it, but I guess it hasn't happened yet. But they were kind of talking about it. Like, hey, how come the Pentagon hasn't had a press conference, or at least, had some whatever their normal things are? But I didn't know who Kingsley Wilson was, and I am now just unhappy that I had to find out. So if you Google her, wow, there's lots of fun stuff that shows up there. Yeah, all sorts of things, and all sorts of things that are about her making ridiculous remarks that are anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, racist, all sorts of things in her history, and it's just really interesting. You can go here to the NPR one, and of course, she was praising Robert E. Lee, which, there's a lot of people admired Robert E. Lee. All of them are crazy people who wish that the South had won the Civil War, because I guess they're all into the slavery thing and cotton. But she makes a lot of really weird comments, but I would like to really just highlight a few. This one in particular. But right below that, she says America is quite literally based on blood and soil. Why is that interesting, you ask? I don't know, maybe because of this. The term blood and soil is a white supremacist neo-Nazi slogan. So, where are these people coming from, and who is bringing them into our institutions in the government? Who grabs this girl and says, this is who we want being part of our press organization for the Pentagon or anywhere within the administration? Who looks at this girl other than, oh, look, she's cute. She'll be a cutesy girl, because we know that a lot of decisions are being made that way. That's why our Attorney General and the White House counsel are pretty women, because that's what Trump prefers. Neither one of them are very good at being lawyers, but they're pretty and they talk nice. So, and they're 100% on their knees worshiping at, the orange Jesus. But where do you find these people? I mean, other than, I was watching a podcast and some Russian propagandist in a beanie had her on his show, and wow, I like the way she talks. I'm going to make her the deputy press secretary. Who does this? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But it's insane in a very long list of insane things that have been going on the last few weeks. So this one actually not that shocking for some reason. It's just one of those minor things that most people are not even going to pay attention to because it's not as important as, gee, I don't know, we're spitting in the face of all of our allies who have helped us since our nation was founded, and we're praising our enemies now. And the peace and no more forever wars president has already started bombing people. Has sent the Navy and the Navy's aircraft carriers out to just start bombing people in Yemen, which is fine. They shot at us first. It's fine. That's kind of my philosophy on warfare. If someone, takes a shot at you, you just have to destroy them. That's the end. And that's the only way you're going to prevent them from doing it again is when, what's that old Sean Connery thing from The Untouchables? You send one of ours to the hospital, we send one of yours to the morgue. It's kind of the philosophy you have to have with these rogue nations and terrorist organizations and rebel groups and things like that. And that's all the Houthis are. They're a government now, I suppose, but there was a civil war and they're backed by Iran. And yeah, they have some weapons. And if they start shooting them at our Navy ships, well, that's when we have to kill them all. And we have the ability to do that, and that's fine. So I don't really have a problem with it, but I do have a problem with people saying that we're not about having a war and we're not going to start any new wars and all that. And then you haven't even been in office for a month or 2 months, I guess. You're barely for 2 months. And we're just going to start bombing people already. And we're going to deport people who were born here and stuff and send people to Gitmo and all kinds of other craziness. But somehow in that chaos, and this is probably how these things happen, amid that chaos, people like this person, Kingsley Wilson, get snatched up and they're like, hey, here's this super cool job at the Pentagon, which I'm sure pays pretty well. And so your tax dollars are paying this woman who, is going to tell you about blood and soil, just like the Nazis. But she's going to be the one helping, do the whole press thing for the Pentagon. And it's sad. It's pretty sickening. And, well, not a surprise, I guess. So, lucky us. But, if you're looking at X, this is my X feed. There's all sorts of things that are going on, and you just can't keep up. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a list. I'm going to do a show specifically about Luigi Mangione again, because I guess there's some things that are going on, and it's not really getting into the news, and it's really just the progress of his case, his charges, and all that other stuff. But for some reason, it's not hitting the news feeds, probably because there's so much else going on that's just insane. But I want to get back to that because it's kind of an important case. And but I guess if you're looking, for those of you watching on the video, Trump is saying that they're going to release JFK files possibly tomorrow. And that's going to be all the files that were, classified before, and now they're going to declassify them. But Trump left them classified in his first term. So I don't know what changed his mind, but I suspect that it's going to tell us a little bit more about some foreign involvement. Not that they were involved in the assassination, but more about Cuban and Soviet involvement with Lee Harvey Oswald in the days and months and perhaps years leading up to the assassination. I did see one former intelligence officer talking about how Cuba had rejected him. The Castro regime had been approached and said, hey, we want you to support me murdering the president or whatever. And they were like, no, keep our hands off of that and stay away from it. But because it would have been too obvious, and I don't know, but we'll see what it says. I'm curious. I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be thousands of documents. It's going to be a long time before anybody actually sifts through and sorts it all out and puts it out there in some sort of a coherent fashion where we'll be able to read it and reference it and maybe have a table of contents or something. something that someone else is going to do because I'm not going to spend my time doing that. But every day, something stupid happens, something stupid is said or done, and there's really just no way for us to avoid it because it's the current White House administration. So, boy, it's going to be it's going to be a fun 4 years, I'll tell you that much. Probably not at all. It's not going to be fun, but it probably will be interesting. And a very prominent, let's say, member of the judiciary mentioned earlier today that the more and more things happen in this administration, the more it's going to wind up having to be some doctors and some lawyers willing to put their lives at risk to stop it. And that is a little scary. If we're to the point where we think some lawyers and judges and doctors are going to have to step in to stop this maniacal administration from doing what they're doing, and they're basically ignoring the Constitution, and all these people who supported them, they're all pro-Constitution people. They probably carry around these pocket constitutions, and they wish they could quote from it, but they don't actually know what it says. Like the woman who was on that committee who was talking about it the other day. It's Article 2 of the Constitution, and it's vested in the President of the United States. But everything she said after that wasn't in Article 2, and they called her a constitutional scholar, and that's weird because the people who were praising her apparently don't know what Article 2 says either. So that's the kind of stupidity that's happening right now, and this administration is ignoring a lot of it. Don't get me wrong, it's not the first administration that has ignored the Constitution, but it might be the first that's openly flaunting their refusal to abide by the judiciary's constraints. When some federal judge says, hey, you can't do this, this is a violation of the Constitution, and the White House turns around and says, fuck you, we're doing it anyway. What are you going to do about it? I'm the president, and this is the administration. What are you going to do about it? Really? Come on. And it's an interesting question. What are they going to do about it if he just decides to defy it, which he's done already? But there's going to have to be someone or some organization or some group of people or some faction within the administration that's going to have to learn how to put the brakes on these people, or at least put them back on the path of following the Constitution. There's going to be some weird stuff that's going to happen. Not all of it's going to be illegal or unconstitutional. That doesn't mean it's going to be good. I expect there'll be some good that comes of this administration. There was probably some good that came with the last one. I don't know what it might be, but the politics, the environment that we're in right now is very, very dangerous. And every time one of these people opens their mouth and says something incredibly critical of the other side or their political opponents, they're basically putting a target on their back, because the people who are supportive of Trump and his regime, because it's kind of that way, it's a cult, they're nuts, and they're not afraid of violence. You saw January 6th, and if they had just been a little more whipped up, it could have been a lot worse. So guess what? Now they believe they have a mandate for what they want, and it's going to get ugly. But I think she was right that it's going to take some very brave lawyers to stand up and put a stop to it and say, you can't do this. And those people will probably literally be putting their lives in danger, because maybe not the administration, maybe not the political, opponents or the other side of the aisle, but the followers of these people. Who knows? They might see that as an invitation to violence if you're going to try to stop Trump from doing what he's doing, because they keep saying this thing. There was a mandate, like he had some sort of a, like a landslide victory or something. It It wasn't Reagan, okay? Knock it off, people. Calm down. But it's getting ugly. And I don't know how it's going to turn out. But I do know what I'm doing. And that's I'm staying prepared. And keeping gas in my vehicle. And all that stuff. Maybe we'll do a how to prepare for the apocalypse show or something. We'll do a completely different thing. But hopefully that won't be necessary. But keep your eyes on it. And stay safe. And I'll see you next time. But every time I sit down in front of this thing, in front of this computer, and I look at things, I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm going to talk about this thing. And then I'm like, oh my God, what did I just see now? I have to look at something and stop scrolling because it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But I have a couple of ideas, and I want to have some people on and have some discussions. Some of it might be political. Some of it might not be. Some of it might be about the UAP thing because there's so much going on with that I think is funny. But a lot of it is just also disinformation and misinformation and grifting and the same old people who've been doing it for decades. They're just bringing along new acolytes. And yeah, it's just the same shit. Nobody's ever going to show you any evidence unless it comes from the government. And these people say the government's hiding it, but nobody has yet to prove it or provide any evidence whatsoever. But anyway, I have some ideas about that and some of the characters behind it. So maybe we'll talk about it at a different time. But for now, keep yourselves safe. You know, keep gas in your car. Keep your powder dry. Hopefully you won't need it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.